Wondered about unlocking secrets for women? Maybe we will today. It's time to wake up the inner giant. Boom. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants and 12 journeys coaching, and wrote a book on kindness, a journey of riches. And I'm here with Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls, the co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants, 12 journeys coaching, and a whole bunch more. He also wrote another book called The Tortoise's Hair, which also I can't speak. I went to the University of Utah football game last night, and we lost, and it was horrible, and I screamed really loud, so I sound like a 90-year-old smoker. But it's gonna work today.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty good. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
For a
raspy.
90-year-old smoker, I'm looking pretty good. Oh my gosh. Well, we're excited for today. We've got some amazing things happening. We're in the middle of SG 13. Is that correct,
14.
Nick? 14.
SG
I
14.
lost the whole SG.
Yeah. We're running a group right now, SG 14. Powerful group. So they're going through the 12 journeys, which for those of you that don't know what that is, so the Giants and the Smalls is written around a journey, and the 12 journeys is around your own personal journey of reaching your potential. So it's doing all your inner work, outer work, and your legacy. And so what we're doing is for 6 weeks, we're going through with this group and teaching them the principles of the 12 journeys so that they can start to rewrite their story. Because often that story is just getting in the way of who we think we are and our potential. And so it affects how we see the world and everything. And so I go through that journey daily. It's I know, Ryan, you go through that daily. And the 12 journeys just gives you a clear framework so you know exactly where you're at in your journey so that you can keep going and keep growing. So there is limitless potential in you, and that's what we want to bring out. And we're launching SG 15 in October. So if you want details, reach out and we'll get you details on what that program looks like, because it's all online. You can do it anywhere in the world, and the time works for the UK, Australia, and the US. So
we unlocked the perfect time.
Yeah. No excuses this time, right?
Yes, World Central Time, we call it.
World Central. We found it.
That's amazing. Yep, and we're fulfilling on the tortoise's hair. That is happening. So people are starting to get their books. So if you had a book that was coming to you, just be patient; it'll come. And we're so excited about this whole thing and the lives that we're able to change. And I don't know about you, Nick, but I'm always up for learning about what helps women and understanding women, because I'm married to one.
And I'm dating one.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm not 100% sure what's going on, because I'm a dude. So I want to learn more.
I'm a dude too, and sometimes we dudes just don't get it. So
holy crap. We need our guest today to unlock all the secrets to help women and help guys like us that like women figure it out.
I think today I'm just going to be quiet, like most of this, being like, oh, okay. I'll be like learning. I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's me. Damn it. Yeah. So, we have an incredible guest. Today we're inspired to have Candace Newton Chaput with us. Candace is a powerhouse of compassion and leadership with over 30 years of experience across healthcare, education, and media production. Born in Victoria, British Columbia, she overcame a tough childhood, including time as a street kid in Vancouver and teenage motherhood. Candace's life story is a statement to resilience and an unwavering dedication to helping others, especially women and youth. As the executive director of Ambassadors of Compassion Canada, Candace, how about that? We'll create a new name for you. Is leading efforts to build emotional and mental resilience among youth across the country. She's also the founder of Unlocking Secrets for Women, where she's touched countless lives through education and media, including producing over 500 hours of television content. Her work in this space even attracted top sponsors like Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble. So please help me in welcoming Candace to the show. We're glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you guys.
Thank you.
First of all, what an honor for you guys to have me today. Thank you so much. It's not a problem getting up super, super early in the morning. I just want to tell you, it's not a problem getting up super early and being camera ready. Not a problem at all. Just want you to know that. If you could only see behind me.
Just so you're aware. Yeah.
Two things before we get started. Can you tell me what SG stands for? I'm listening to your coaching segment. So what does that mean?
So it stands for Sum Gigante, which is I am giant in Latin.
Oh, nice. I should have known that. I know Latin and medicine, but
I think that's great. But the number that follows it is the number of the cohort. So there will only be one number of that cohort. So we'll never go back to another 14. There will be another number 5. There will never be another number 5. I'll get there. So 15 is the newest one that's coming up. That's our 15th cohort. So we've run this program with 15 different groups.
Oh, 50. Okay. And then what I want to ask, because I'm so curious, and I'm sorry, I'm a producer, the hat flips, and I'll try to get back to my position. But right now I'm just digging because I really want to learn.
Yeah.
How many people are usually in your cohort?
We usually do between 5 and 10.
Nice. So it's intimate. It's intimate. And then, it's 12, is it 12 weeks to go with the
6 weeks? So we do 2 journeys every week for 6 weeks.
Nice.
And then they have assignments. We have a workbook that goes through it. We have AI applications that go alongside it. Every week they're reporting on what they're discovering in themselves. They're highly accountable. So during the week, we're supporting them through messenger comments and
nice.
Providing additional information to help them go even deeper on the journeys. And the first 6 journeys are the hardest ones because they go into the inner world of our narrative and waking up to that, navigating sensations and, navigating acceptance, gratitude, and empowerment. So we really try and empower them first before we work on growing anything in their world. And so we slow down.
Foundation.
Yeah, we
got a really good foundation. I call it like going to a brand new lot. You're like, oh, I want to build a house over there. Oh, there's stoves and fridges and garbage, and we got to get all that off before we can start nurturing the soil. So I get it. And then the second thing I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
This book is actually very precious to us. So several years ago when we met Nick through Francis Pichet, my little French Canadian boyfriend, /son. He calls me mom. Believe it or not, I'm old enough to be his mother.
I can hear him right now saying, "I love it." I love it.
Shut up, Francis, if you're awake enough to hear us. But so when you sent me this book here in Canada, and you signed it for me, my grandson at the time was 3, and or 2. Anyways, he looks at the book and read me the story just from the visual. So children are really big at visual. And I'm like, whoa, he's drawn to that right away. So he's, 2 or 3. I don't ask me. I'm, that woman of a certain age. I can't remember what I just did a second ago. But and of course, it's a very wordy book. I have to say.
All my books
are wordy.
I have a hard time saying things concisely.
But what's interesting is that when you're 3, you can read the one sentence, look at the picture, and move. So that you're not sitting there for 45 minutes reading to a 3-year-old. But he's 5. Grandma cannot do that anymore.
Yeah.
So every time he comes to my house, Grammy, read me the giants and the smalls. I'm like, okay, well, we actually have to set time aside for this because this isn't like Grammy can just pick up a book and read it to you. So he was here maybe a month ago overnight. His mom and dad were celebrating their anniversary. Grammy and Grandpa gave them a break. Read me the giants and the smalls, Grammy. And I knew I was going to have to hunker right down and get in and be very present in the story. And he is absolutely mesmerized by this book. And I could not miss a word. And so we stayed there. We stayed into that story for 45 minutes. And I just want to tell people that my grandson at 5 just is really drawn to the fact that Rit is small, and he's really curious about this growth, how this dream of wanting to be more than what was possible, more than what he was born with. And so I just cannot recommend this story enough.
Thank you.
Under 3, you can skip some of the story, but at 5, don't try it. The kids will get you. But it's such a good story, and every time I read it to him, I'm pulling stuff out of it. So I recommend this book, and I cannot wait to get the tortoise. What's the name of it?
The tortoise's hair. I'll pull it here.
The tortoise's hair.
Yeah.
See, how cute!
Yeah, so that's the newest book there.
I love it.
It's another long read. So I'm getting parents to slow down with their kids. I like that. I've never used that. You're going to slow down with your kids and get really focused.
Present.
But this one's beautiful. It's more of self-worth, self-acceptance.
Oh, beautiful.
I think it ties right into what we're doing with the 12 journeys, because it's a continuation of that story of how do we get ahead of our kids? I'm putting myself out of business in the future, because if we can teach kids this now, they won't need people like me in the future.
100%.
Right?
Giving them those tools. The giant story is very helpful to mom and daddy, because a lot of times mommy and daddy are growing along with their kids. There is no handbook. There's nothing. Yes, Andrea, great book. Hi.
Me and Ryan are fighting over the comments here. Like,
just keep flashing. We'll just keep flashing that. It is a great book. Did you know it was?
Hi, Andy. Hi. Thank you.
I love this story, and I just think if parents can take that opportunity to be present with their children, there is so much rich food, soul food in that story, and it will help the grown-ups. And it's cute. It's a cute story, and so good job.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you for sharing that, because I wonder, my books don't fit in a traditional category. They don't fit in children's books. They don't fit in personal development books. They are personal development books. I wrote them for adults, but I wanted my kids to learn the lessons. And so I tried to keep them short enough that my kids would dive into them too. And the imagery matters, but I think adults we need the metaphors. And so I write metaphors. And so they really are adults' books, but kids get it. Your 5-year-old is looking at that and saying, I want to slow down with this. I love the small that becomes a giant. I want to become a giant. And they get it, right?
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of metaphor is that people get it no matter their age. I think we're wired for it. Yeah.
And you did something, whether you did it intentionally or not, Nick, in the movie industry. And I'm not an expert in the movie industry, but I know that a lot of times, especially with the animation series or the Inside Out or something that a parent is going to have to sit through, they build humor for adults, sneak it in there.
Yeah.
And which is, a way to engage the parent. But the giants and the smalls is an opportunity for parents to completely slow down. We have one of those big hanging swings in our front room, and it shows in the front window, and all the kids walk by like, I want to sit in your hanging chair. But it's our story chair, and it's a focus place. So I just love it. So I can't say enough about it. And I'm excited to read your new one. And as far as a category, there's a reason why you're not fitting into a category. And that is because you are unique in your DNA. And all of us are unique. And we build our own pathways that are uniquely us.
Yeah.
And so we don't need to fit into a category. We make our own. And then people see the value and they add to that.
I appreciate you bringing up the segue right into our conversation, because that's exactly where we're going to go is that, we, Candace, this show is about you. This show is about your philosophies. This show is about your journeys. We get a chance to slow down with you and highlight, and Ryan and I will share ideas, but we want to explore you as a possibility for others so that they can see. And in your bio, it mentioned that you started out as a street kid in Vancouver. It started out that you were a young teenage mom, and there are narratives that were there. I'm going to lay a foundation. I'll hand it off to you, but just real quick, I'll lay a foundation. We all have some version of that. We have stuff that was handed to us when we were really young. We took it on, we adopted it, we assimilated it. Our brains adapted to it. We survived with it. We thrived with it. We lived a lifetime with it. And then we woke up and found out that's not really who we are. And now there's this time of overcoming or changing or transitioning that story. But if you'll go back to your childhood and who you thought you were, that's where I want to start, is you had a narrative there. Can you go into that a little bit?
100%.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of adult work. So a lot of work. So I'm very comfortable sharing. For my family role, I was the family scapegoat. And in my brain as a little kid, I didn't know, when I had done something wrong. I just was wrong. So when there was, we grew up, I don't want to get into too much detail because everybody's got their story. Both my parents were war veterans, my father in particular. And, bless his heart, he struggled with big emotions and feelings, and he was basically a very large child. Around the toddler age of not being able to manage or cope, and no awareness of children and their emotional needs because he didn't know his own. So he's not going to give to me what he doesn't have for him. So, many experiences in my life being hit and punched and kicked, knocked down with a car, woke up in the middle of the night getting disciplined or smacked for something that I did without even knowing. So for me, and it sounds terrible and awful, trust me, I've done my work. My father passed away. I was the only one at his bedside before he passed away. I loved him, kept my heart forgiving him, and we're good that way. But I left that story without that interruption. So if anybody's ever had, I'll use the example of a panic attack. I mean, panic attacks are horrible feelings because all of a sudden you think you're having a heart attack and you don't have that ability to interrupt the thought and the feeling fast enough. You don't even know that you can. You're just overwhelmed. I used to work in a marriage. We saw them all the time, people mixing up between anxiety and panic and a heart attack. And very rarely was it ever a heart attack. It was usually birth and anxiety. So for me, when someone has an anxiety or a panic attack, they have to learn through cognitive therapy and healing and all the other devices that there's a thought that comes first that's based in a belief system, and the body is so, right? Your computer, something bad is happening, and then your body follows. So, my work, I used to have panic attacks, and I had to learn how to master them. So I applied the principle in my healing, and I didn't do it alone. I've been to lots of counseling, read lots of books, shared lots of heartache. I realized that I didn't know anything except I was wrong. And now I just have to figure out what that was. That's how I grew up. And when I got to 12 and my parents had already divorced and we had moved into the big city and the adults were beside themselves and not being an anchor, which they never had been, it was too much for a little 12-year-old heart, mind. Yeah. And I consciously remember taking my little nephew, walking him around the park and saying to myself so clear, there was no emotion attached to it. It was so matter of fact, but it was deadly because it was so absolutely solid. And I saw her.
Yeah, I'll tell you what that means after. But
okay,
go ahead.
And I had this thought, and it was so clear. Well, there's no adults to take care of me, and I have to take care of myself.
Holy
and it was an acceptance, and it was an awareness, and it was scary. When I look back at it now, Like that was a very frightening thing for a 12-year-old to do. And up to that point, I was a pretty innocent kid.
Mm.
Like when I say innocent, I just did not know. I didn't have that feeling inside where I was almost separating from myself. But I didn't have that cognitive awareness that what I was raised in was the emotional, unresolved issues of my parents who were never able to take me beyond where they were. And
Yeah,
so
yeah. So they had capped your growth by their growth. I like
that's
that.
what happens.
Yeah,
That's what happens. Children do that. So
yeah.
I said to my grandson, I have a 25-year-old grandson and an almost 21-year-old granddaughter, as well as my 5-year-old. And I said to my grandson not long ago, we were talking about something to the point, and I said to him, he goes, he's not a bitter kid. He goes, my parents, grandma, my son and his wife, every parent does the best they can with what they know. And he was sort of talking about missing some things in his childhood. And I had this insight and I said, honey, can I ask you a question? Yeah. And I said, if your mom and dad were born blind, would you be angry with them for them not showing you a sunset? And he started to cry.
Hmm.
Grandma, that's beautiful. And I said, yeah, I really believe that our parents do the very best we can in raising our kids. But the rite of passage, the rite of moving into adulthood comes to us. That if my mom and dad didn't have something, I build on the best that they gave me. And the
That
job of adulting is my job now. It's my work and my rite of passage. And to turn around and be stuck and blame other people
yeah.
is so self-defeating.
Okay, we're
Mm.
gonna hang here for a minute. I'll tell you what the panic and Anic attack is.
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I love watching it. I'm looking
Okay.
for Nate Bargatze next week. Yeah.
There's a scene in there that's pretty funny. There's a lady and she's having a panic attack, and her friend is a one-upper, and so she comes in and she's like, "My panic attack is having a panic attack, so it's a panic and Anic attack." One-ups her. So we got that little joke in there, but
Yeah, that's too much for my mouth to say right now, but
yeah. So
cute.
going back to this, our parents do the best they can with what they had, and they get us to a certain level. And I look
Yeah.
at my own development. My mom came from a family where her dad was very abusive, alcoholic, PTSD, undiagnosed, because he was World War II. So that was before they even
That's
knew
it.
what that was, right?
Yeah.
And so he's out there doing things that are just severely abusive to her. So as a kid, she takes that on as whatever identity she created was created around that. And her
Yeah.
dad had only developed so far. And so then she was released kind of into the wild. She was wandering New York on her own at 13 and just, riding the subway, doing all that stuff. But then
Wow.
she
With
becomes a
her.
parent. Yeah. And then she has 11 kids and she gets into a relationship with a man that's fairly stable. Well, he ends up dying at 46 years old after they have 11 kids. And now
Wow.
she's hit with that impact and all of her stuff comes up and she shuts down, And so then that gets handed off to the kids. And then we're left to decide, okay, what are we going to do with that? Because until you learn, you do blame. Until you learn, you do judge and you justify because you don't know any better. So we grew
Right.
up kind of blaming, and it's my mom's fault. And, she gave me
Yeah.
this. Well, she was doing the best she could do and she handed
Yes.
off at that level. So
Yeah.
now it's my responsibility to come in and say, I'm not going to carry that forward anymore to my kids.
Yeah.
And I still do. That's the thing, is like, they're going to say the same thing as my dad was at this level when he raised me. And hopefully they take it to a higher level even there. But my goal was to not cause further harm with my kids and kind of put a stop to that. That's up to me. And that's what I'm hearing in that is you had a decision to make. Am I going to continue and blame and stay stuck, or am I going to do something with this? Am I hearing you?
100%. And in addition to, and I really love, first of all, my parents, World War II, and
Yeah.
total sympathy. Alcohol was not a part of our family, thank God, but PTSD certainly was. So,
Yeah.
and undiagnosed. And so let me just give you a little framework around that. So there's two things. My daughter last night, so proud of my daughter, my amazing, I've got two beautiful daughters and two sons. My daughter's in Costa Rica. She's this real estate agent. She's this powerhouse woman.
That's amazing. My
Yeah.
girlfriend's family's all Costa Rican, and
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And
yeah.
so she sent me something last night. She sent me this, it's a little talk, you know how a little Instagram talk? And I just loved it. And so Siobhan, if you're watching, thank you. It was talking about the different, you know how Apple has an Apple 10 and then an Apple 11. And this guy's just saying every generation is a new version of technology. We all have an upgraded, newer version. And as we evolve and we go along, we have a newer version. And the analogy that I like to use with women that are really hurting, and I have and do support men, but most of the time I'm around women. And one of the things I like to share with them is, diabetes medicine or penicillin. If you were the parent of a dying child of diabetes or of a serious infection, the day before the insulin was released on the market, would you hate on everyone for not having the answer? It is impossible to control everything. And so here's a parent that's, hoping their child's not going to die from insulin shock or, what's ever happening in the diabetes realm. And then the next day, the medicine is released on the market, but the child has passed away. The timing, if I only had that medicine yesterday. So there's a lot of human desire to want to know and be in control. By the way, not possible. If anybody thinks they can, say it to death when it comes knocking. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Not happening. But so there's a whole lot of things. And let me be really raw with you. The reason why I learned is because I grew up in that pain. And then when I felt a certain thing or a certain circumstance happened to me, I didn't have the resource. It's like walking right off a cliff. What do? So I defaulted to what I had. So anger, rage, yelling. I was a yeller. My kids will tell you I was a yeller. The neighbors will tell you I was a yeller. Hopefully they don't know where I am now. But anyways, but I didn't want to feel that anymore. I didn't want to hurt my kids. But for me, I was coping. In my mind, I wasn't harming. I was coping with my stuff, not understanding the impact on them because in my brain, parents, people, listen to this. In my brain, I was still that little girl. I didn't see myself the way my kids saw me. But you're my mom, you're my parent, you're my savior, you're my helper, you're my food, you're my provider. And I'm like, I'm this hurt 12-year-old kid trying to be a mom. And it was going, wait a minute, something has to shift in me. And I had a desire to want to shift. And one day I was, so much growth, was having a thought. And it's as if God, can I say God?
Yeah, please. Yep. Whatever.
Me, yeah. I have a very strong personal faith because I would not be where I am without it. Point blank, say what you want, but that's the truth. And I didn't have that faith throughout the tough years. But I was having a moment, as an adult, and I had this quiet knowing that said, why are you angry? That's your father's anger. It's not yours. Put it down. Because, a toddler watches the adults and performs the same behavior. So here my dad, with his toddler throwdowns, because he didn't know how else to deal with all his emotions, would throw down in anger. And then I just didn't. I'm learning. So that's the way you handle it. You just get angry and yell.
Right.
And until you learn a different tool. And I say it this way. I grew up, we're going to pretend this is a hammer. I grew up hammering a nail in with a rock. Bang, 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 bang. smashing my fingers, hurting myself. Pain has a really great way of motivating you to do something different.
Yeah.
Pain is your best friend for anybody that doesn't think so. And if you think so, ask someone who doesn't have feeling in their body anymore. They would be begging for pain. Pain is a friend if we use it correctly. And so I realized I was behaving like hammering a nail in with a rock and smashing my fingers. And it's like God said, didn't say it, but felt, you can keep doing that. And while you're doing that, may I offer you this? How about self-regulation? How about peace inside? How about hearing you first? I can't give to my kids what I don't have. I can't take my children beyond me. My growth is imperative. And whenever I see kids acting out and the parents are sort of letting them get away with it, it's like naughty puppies. You know, animals, they're naughty. I like the dog whisperer, like, oh, the human doesn't know what they're doing. Because you can't take someone past you. That's why growth is absolutely essential. And when I'm looking at my kids as an adult female, thinking psychologically and emotionally, I'm still 12, then I'm looking at like, well, you guys have to just smarten up, stop being jerks, and you guys have to behave, and you owe me, and you have to do this. And it's like, whoa, put the brakes on. You're the adult. Well, what does that look like? I don't know, but I need to go find out.
Okay, so this is there is like 1,000,000 pounds of gold right there in that.
Exactly. 1 million.
1 million.
Yeah.
And one thing that you know, in our 12 journeys, the second journey is the journey of awareness. The non-conscious stuff isn't difficult for people until they become aware of it. And the becoming aware of it is sometimes a slap in the face when people have awakened me to my ways of being, and they come to me and they say, you're doing this. Oh man, it hits. Like it hits, and I get into judgments and justifications and all kinds of things. And really what it is an opportunity to look at what's showing up. Is that accurate? Is it an accurate perception, or is it not? And the awakening part is kind of like it hits my insecurities. So when people wake me up from my thing, it hits my insecurities. And then I notice that I go into my self-judgments and my self-justifications around it. And the challenge of that, I even want to play with the endeavor of that, because the word challenge means calumny, which is like a spitefulness almost, but endeavor is to climb a mountain. So the endeavor in that is I've got something to overcome here, but only if I can allow myself to do it. And when what we see is the journey of awareness is when people wake up to things, they get self-judgmental, and it spins them right back into their non-conscious states, but now with self-judgment about their awareness. And so it makes it even harder. And it could be a chance to look at, well, how do I grow from this? How do I take that awakening that somebody's given me and learn and grow from it, and use it as a stepping stone to advance beyond what I was taught? Like, I have programming, my programming is around money. My programming is around relationship. That's where I have the most insecurities in my life. And those are my challenges that are my endeavors that I face the most. And so how would you speak to somebody around that? The awareness part, where it's like, you're going to wake up to this. You're going to have judgments. You're going to have justifications. What are you hearing in your inner world around this? And what would you say?
Been there, done that. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So 3 things come to mind. If I, go off on a bunny trail, that's, me. First thing is, there is an antidote to self-judgment. Okay. So like if you're bit by a snake, they give you a venom or anti-venom antidote. Yep. And the antidote, here's the magic, is compassion. Period. Because that self-judgment, you hit it on the head, and I've been there. So I am not talking as someone who doesn't, feel the pride, the insecurity, the hurt, the wounding when someone is saying something to me. In fact, it's one of my giant wounds, because I was always wrong. So I've learned and recognized that if I'm required to give compassion to another, I must equally, not better than, but also like a scale, compassion to them, compassion to me. That will arrest the insecurities immediately. That, because now we're shifting, we're moving in a different direction immediately. Instead of going dark, we're going compassion. How do I show compassion right now to myself and that person? And that is that it takes a while. There's another situation where,
and it can be painful, right? Hang on to that. It can
hurts.
be painful to go through that because it hurts when people point out our behaviors, our patterns.
Yeah.
It hurts. When people point out mine, I feel it. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Right?
It hurts though because we believe it. That's the problem. It's got its attachment in a false belief. So the more we are accepting of ourselves in all of our imperfection, the easier it is for us to agree with someone and saying, you know what? You're right. I can be really talkative. I can be those things because I'm not trying to be perfect. Yeah. I'm just showing up authentically. And when I'm an adult educator, I had a class I was teaching quite a few years ago. It was a healthcare class. And I wanted to teach my students, my adult students, some of them were immigrants, some of them were coming back to work for the first time in years, others were changing career, and we're talking age groups 18 to 60 of women, about 25 or 30. And one of the most important things an employer looks for isn't your skill set. You guys know what an employer looks for, don't you? The ability to get along with people, because HR is their biggest nightmare. So I'm, learning this from the health authorities who are saying, please teach them how to get along with each other. We can teach anybody how to do this and that, but teaching each other how to get along is tough. So I'm trying to think of what I could do. And we're in the classroom one day and it's full of windows, but it's a cloudy day. And I look outside the windows, I get this idea and I said, hey, everybody, can we stop for a minute? Can you look outside? And I look outside and I said, can you tell me how clean those windows are? They're like, oh, they look pretty clean to me. I'm like, yeah. Well noted. And then I just said, yeah, nice. Too bad it's, cloudy. And then I set that aside and I waited for the class for the next sunny day. And I said, hey guys, remember how I asked you how those windows were when it was cloudy? Yeah. Take a look. It's sunny. They're like, whoa, are those ever dirty? And I said, do not be afraid of light or revelation. These are not to criticize. When I look at a dirty window, no. I can have a self-righteous, superior, mean to myself attitude. And by the way, I'm not mean to anybody if I am not mean to me first. Whatever I have inside, that's what I'm giving, which is why self-love and self-compassion must be at the same time as we're growing and looking at others. So you look at that window and I say to everybody, look, it's dirty. I said, do not recoil from that. Look at it and go, oh, for all the dirty parts, there's beautiful, clean parts.
Yeah.
And we can work on that. We can take that one thing at a time. And we've got to accept that we're human. And with that human comes imperfection. And then we can take the God complex off our head and have to try to stop being perfect because we won't. And then I'm going to tell you a real thing that happened to me. I was not parented, so I parented myself. Didn't do a great job, by the way. A 12-year-old is not a good parent. It's a very permissive parent. I just want you to know.
Yeah. Can we do that?
Can you
yes.
watch?
Go ahead and do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you do that.
Sure.
So as I'm growing, I ended up being in a church community, and I had a really strong faith experience. And let me tell you, I'm not a BSer. If this stuff isn't real, I don't want it. If it's a system of laws and rules, I'm out because I couldn't do it. Yeah. It has to be an authentic love, a real truth in me. So we're in the washroom of this church. I've had a faith experience maybe a couple of months new, and it's real. Like down here, things are changing from the inside out. And I go into the washroom and I can hear a woman have a conversation about somebody. She starts talking to me and I went, oh, and I said, oh, well, I blah, 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 just sharing. And that one of the women left the bathroom and another one turned and looked at me and she said, you were gossiping.
Hmm.
And I felt instant. I felt I wanted to fight her back and defensive, and I could feel it in me, like that energy rising up to fight her back. But this new commitment I'd made to a new way of thinking and a new love, really love, I just like, let me try something. I looked at her and I said, I could feel the embarrassment, the humiliation, because I was caught. And her face was red. She was uncomfortable. And I looked at her and I just felt this and I said, "You're right. And I was wrong. Thank you
Hmm.
for pointing that out." I was a street kid. That was a divinely inspired conversation. That was God beginning to show me a different way, a replacing. Instead of fighting it, thank you for letting me hear that.
Could she have said that any other way to soften that, or do you feel like it? Because,
The messenger is never the problem. The messenger is never the problem. It is the one who's receiving it, interprets it through their insecurity, personal
yeah,
growth, how much work they've done. It wouldn't matter, honestly. I don't think it does matter, because then that becomes my filter. Then I'm not going to hear anymore unless people cater to the way I want it.
yeah. See, and I have things that people will highlight, and I'm just like, fuck. Couldn't you have said that a different way? You know,
Doesn't matter. It's still going to
and it's
impact.
and they do, and some of them have just been so blunt,
Yeah.
and it's like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
But as I sit back from it, I start to consider it, and okay, is that accurate? Are they seeing it accurate? Is there something to look at here? And in most cases, I step into it and say, okay, I'm going to do better here. I'm going to see what I can transform out of this and do something with it. But sometimes people are wrong. It's like you really have to do that check
Yeah.
of, like, is this information really about me, or are they projecting, and their stuff coming over? So how do you handle that? Like, how do you and gauge, like, do I need to pay attention to something here, or is somebody just projecting their insecurities on me and then making that my problem? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's beautiful and it's very heady. But let me tell you that uh, for me, we need to immediately be comforting ourselves right away, because that is the missing piece. I
Mm.
had a woman look at me in one of my most vulnerable moments of my life. It's too long of a story, but it's certainly worth telling someday. She looked right at me. She said, "I want you to know from the moment I met you, I've hated your personality and asked God to change you."
Oh,
And I
wow.
was at an incredibly vulnerable moment. Oh, I've had some mean females. Females fight with their mouth.
Yeah.
Men use their fists, women use that.
Way
That
to
is
go, quiet,
meaning.
Nick.
Yeah.
But the way to do that,
No
honestly,
agreement.
is is break that panic attack. It's an emotional panic attack when
It
someone comes to
is.
say something to us.
Yeah.
It's an emotional panic attack. And so how do we handle that? As soon as someone says something that's hurtful, and I practice this. Do I do it perfectly? No, because I'm human, and sometimes I'll default to my, lower side. And yeah, that's true, Joe. That's my friend Joe Dibley, by the way, making those
No,
comments. She runs, supports a 30-kid orphanage out of Mexico. You got to have her on your show. But anyways, so the first thing you do, you talked about body. So the somatic, the comfort. When we were children and things happened to us, hopefully our parents were in tune to their own bodies and their own self. We have an emotional reaction. I have a great friend, Dr. Russell Kennedy. He's the anxiety MD expert, and he talks about how he healed his anxiety by listening to his body. So
mm,
the first thing you do is, when someone says something, put your hand over your heart and give yourself a little bit of a hang on. Give yourself a little bit of a breath. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt, because we've attached stories to what we believed, and they hit so fast we don't even know it. We're just that familiar. Oh, I don't like that. But it's like, no, hold yourself, because you would with a child. Come here. let me just give you a little hug right now. And then your amygdala is not firing off and flooding your brain so that you can't hear. You calm yourself. Take a deep breath. And then your brain settles down and your prefrontal cortex has the ability to wait, hang on a second. Is there truth to that? First of all, person, I'm not sure where you're coming from, but I have control as the receiver how I'm going to accept that. So no judgment against you. I don't know. Maybe you're stepping on a nail and you're screaming at me. I have no idea what your story is. Your story is the second concern. How I react and show up for myself is my first concern. And that's not selfish. It's, wait a minute, oxygen mask first. Hang on. That hit me. It hit me because there's a portion of truth. It's not the truth. It's a portion of truth, and it's generally an opportunity for something you have not completed your work in because it still hurts you. It's not a healed area. It's still a tender area. So you might be able to say to someone maybe in relationship that you're close to, because, hey, everybody, we know the closer you are, the more power you have to hurt me, which is why we have to be super careful the closer we are to people, right? And our kids, our relationships. So we might say this because we're going to now learn to help ourselves. So we're going to say this. Can you hang on a second? That hit hard. And then just like, you know what? I appreciate that you're sharing something with me. It hit me. Not sure why it did. I need a few minutes. I might have to walk out of the room. I'm not angry. I'll be back, but I need to go. Take a deep breath, have a little cry, shed a tear. And then I'm going to come back and I'm just going to say to you, that was tough. Can we frame that differently so that I can receive it from you? Because right now I'm struggling. Our responsibility is never the other person. We have zero control over how they deliver, how they share. Who knows where they're coming from? Who knows what's happening to them? Even if they are being a big, fat, judgmental jerk. And who isn't? Because we do it to ourselves. So we can't judge anybody that's doing that. We do it to ourselves and others, like, without even thinking. So it's really just be kind, be compassionate to yourself. That means you guys, all of us, have to stay moment by moment present as much as possible, cognitively present. So, if we're doing a high profile job that requires our diligent attention, life's like that. And it doesn't mean being on, it means developing the habit of being aware. Where am I right now? If we're driving in a car, guys, I'm not going to get into a vehicle with a person who's been drinking or a person who is not conscious, or it could be a diabetic that's insulin is out of control because they're not able to be present. So if we can be present driving in a car, we can be present in life. We need to be present to us first. And that's not selfish. It's self-management. And then I'm going to end it with something funny. My classroom of women are saying to me, Candace, how do I help my husband teach me how to love me? And I'm like, yeah, let's work on that.
Yeah.
Let me give you your power back, girlies. And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, so who knows when you have to pee? Oh, my husband will be the first thing to say, oh, you're jumping around. And I said, yeah, wrong answer. Who's the first person that knows you have to pee? What do we teach our little toddlers? We want them to feel the sensation of that urgency in their bladder from the inside out.
Yeah.
They must feel it first so they can regulate and self-control. Hey, I got to go to the bathroom. Hey, I got to go pee. So I say to these women, if you need a hug, your husband can read your mind about as well as an elephant can be a ballerina. Can't happen. Nobody can read your mind. So you can say, hugs are really important to me right now. Can you hug me? I need that. So empowering yourself.
I want to hang here for just a minute. Yesterday I did a video on PCR, pause, check in, respond.
Beautiful.
And so you got to slow down, really check in with it, get centered, check in with yourself and the whole situation. Try and see everything as much as you're able, and then respond from that. And it's amazing because in relationship, the longer you're with somebody, the more you really start to see everything about a person, right? So we become mirrors of each other, and we start to see it, because when you're dating, when you're first starting out, you don't really see it. We kind of put on our best front and everything's good and beautiful. It's like, wow,
We're not that deep. We're not that deep. It's when we get deep, it shows up.
As we go deeper, we start to see more and more in each other. And it's not, I hate this about you. It's not that. It's like, I'm noticing things. I'm just noticing patterns, and so, and because we're noticing patterns, you mentioned the window. It's like, I'm seeing some things on the window that you've got a beautiful view out here. You're just an incredible human. And I'm noticing some things, and I want to be pointed out. And, and pointing that out in relationship, it's a very touchy thing, because when we point out the dirt on the window or the smudges, but there are tons of clear spots too, then it can feel really impactful because of how close we are. Right?
Yes, it can.
And so it's, when somebody says something to me, I've got to, our tendencies become reactionary. When the emotions hit, the sensations hit, we become reactionary. And
we lose control of ourselves. When we're reacting, we don't have control anymore.
And we create more damage, right?
Yeah.
But if we can slow down and just pause and then check in, like, okay, is what they said accurate? Is that a clear view? Do I do that? Is that true? And then respond. Now you're doing it with more of a complete cognitive space, right?
Yes. And especially in relationship, like I have to teach women how to talk to their partners, and I have to teach men how to talk to their wives too. But reaction is self-betrayal. It's human, but it's self-betrayal, because you are not helping yourself at that moment. You, who are in charge of you, have suddenly vacated the property, and you have to be able to find a way to calm down. So no matter how close you are in relationship, when that reaction happens, we want to be empowered and respond, not react. That takes absolute conscious choice to step back and go, I have to practice right now. When I get a trigger, I got to stop right now. It's like having the urgency to go to the bathroom. You train yourself to learn it, and you go, I need to take a minute. I love you, but I got to take a minute. We take a breath, and then we can come back. But I say to women all the time, listen, husbands are not like us. We can pick up the phone and go, did you know? And then we just pour out our guts, and it's the most horrible thing. Men are terrified of that. They don't do that. They're very scared of that.
I think that might be a woman then.
You could have feminine traits. Nothing wrong with that.
I love to talk things through. Like let's go.
But whatever that person is, when you're sharing with another individual and you want to give feedback, and I'm telling you, I've learned all this through my own mistakes. So I just want you to know I'm an expert because failure has driven me to work on this. Is you've got to understand, what is my motive for saying something to someone? First of all, that's a self-check you do. Like I teach people, you can't learn CPR during a heart attack. You learn CPR before the heart attack so that when it happens, your skills take over. So I'm saying to you and me and all of us, if someone needs us to give them feedback, or someone wants to give us feedback, first of all, what is my motivation for doing that? Because love is not selfish. Am I doing this because I don't like it and it's pissing me off and, I'm annoyed and I need it to stop? Selfish doesn't work. How about, what is the best thing for that individual? Is that person allowing themselves to be the best version of themselves that they could be? And to be able to say, let's lift the blind slowly. Let's not blast the flashlight in their face, but let's lift it slowly. If we're going to give feedback to somebody, it's, hey, I got some things on my heart. I need to share them with you. They're not about you. It's, I notice how they're impacting me and I'm curious about them. Can we talk about why this behavior is happening? Because I don't want to make a judgment around it, because I have no idea why it's there. And then sometimes that person will go, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Like my husband will say, oh, I didn't know I was doing that. I'm like, it's okay. I'm not upset, but I notice that it impacts me. So rather than judge you for it, I would like to get curious about what that behavior is.
That's such a powerful way to come at it, the curiosity.
Yes, because we're not in judgment. You can't go left and right at the same time. You can't go judgment and curious at the same time. You can't. Your steering wheel is either going right or left. And so point it in the right direction as an adult, a skill as we learn not to be toddlers with throwdowns. We learn to manage our emotions, our attitudes, and we start to grow up. First, knowing how to love the first human we have responsible for, which is us. We're our first human. We need to learn how to love us correctly and simultaneously extend that same love and kindness to others at the same time. Not one or the other, same time. If I deserve compassion, you deserve compassion. If you deserve, it just has to be adulting. It's tough. I'm 67 and it's taken me 67 years to be able to say that to you. And then thank goodness my husband's out of town, because if I had to leave this computer and then go practice it, I'll probably fall flat on my face. But I will pick myself up again.
Yeah. Ryan, what are you noticing? What as you're listening in, what's hitting you the most out of this conversation?
Be gentle with me, Ryan.
This was
Can
fun.
I
This
my
was funny.
wife's phone number? Oh, buddy, this guy. Hey, Nick. Not only will I not take your wife's phone number because that's your skill set, but maybe you could learn some skills there, little Nick guy, and learn how to be that
was
amazing
funny,
man.
Nick. Yeah. No.
I gave you my wife's phone number.
Yeah.
Oh, I get that a lot, by the way. I get a lot of guys asking me, will you talk to my wife? It's like, no, let's work on your growing up. Let's work on you.
Well, and that's just it too. Like we all, like it's our own work. We all have our stories. We all have our things. We all have our ways of being, our preferences, and all of that come into play every single moment of every single day, and most of it is subconscious, most of it.
Yeah.
And so the shift can seem pretty daunting, because you have so much that you have adopted and you've believed and that you've started to practice, and that's some of that is unhealthy practices, over time can create some what we call gravity in our 12 journeys. We talk about
Mm-hmm.
this. It has weight to it. It's your way of
Yeah.
being. It's like the Earth and the Moon, and you're trying to, or a little tiny asteroid. We're about to get like some second moon or something like that that's gonna come and revolve around the Earth a few times, and then over a few months or something like that, and then disappear. But it's like that. It's oh my gosh, I can see it now, but how do I shift that? And
Mm-hmm.
then we talk about the old adage of how do you eat an elephant? And that's one bite at a time. So these are little
Sorry, vegans.
awarenesses. Yeah, I mean, yeah. How do you eat uh, I don't know, a field of
Giant
dandelions?
pumpkin.
Yes, yeah, one bite at a time. It's
Yeah.
just something that um, the more that you become aware and the more that you practice these things, the easier that it's going to become. You're going to develop new habits. You're going to see new things too. You're going to have new awarenesses that
Yeah.
come along. And so in this process, as you're starting to see how your way of being is affecting your world, be gentle with yourself.
Yes.
Slow down. Love yourself.
Yeah.
I absolutely love what you talked about like you can't give what you don't have in here. So slow down and learn some self-love. Be
Yeah.
gentle. Give yourself as much as you currently can give yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and practice that every single day. You have a lot of opportunities in your interactions with people. Practice it as you start to become aware. Practice that, and the easier it will become. And Nick, I thought your joke was hilarious, and you're right too. Like you we start doing our work, and those will be easier to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
then
you'll
we
you'll
can.
watch your world shift, and things will become different. You'll hit new peaks and new valleys and new awarenesses that you're like, fudge, I thought I healed. No, it's this is a journey. You're 67 and still working at it. I'm
Every day.
43
and still working at it every day.
Yeah,
Correct.
49 and still working at it. But it opens the door to these. Gosh, I hate the word challenge now because
It's,
of
yeah,
what it
it's not.
originates as.
It's your relationship with yourself. It's
Yeah,
like women say to me, "Oh, what people have actually said to me, Candace, what would you do if your husband cheated on you?" I mean, there's a lot of that going on nowadays because people are looking for something and they're not paying attention to themselves. And I said to them, well, first of all, I mean, that would be sad for him because he's showing me who he is. And I would be more concerned about his relationship with himself because before he hurts me, he's already betrayed himself. Something in him is not showing up where it needs to be. He's not hearing himself. Why would he disrespect himself like that? Why would he do that to him? And I think one of the biggest things we have to say to our adult self, and I say this to adults all the time because I say it to me. Are you an adult? Yeah. So you've got no choice but to grow up because you're already there. Your outside is a big person. Now you get your insides lined up to fill that big person. So your job, if you're an adult, you have your work cut out for you. So there's no excuses. It's not about judging anybody. It's a fact. It's also a fact that as an adult, unless you're diapered, and bless their heart, some people's bodies are not working anymore through injury or whatever.
yeah.
But if we know how to feel the sensation and learn that sensation to tell ourselves, you better get to the bathroom. I don't want to be looking at my grown man husband going, hey, I think you missed the signal. You kind of peed your pants.
Yeah.
And I joke with him, and I'm just like, are we peeing our pants right now? Are we taking care of ourselves right now? You take care of you because the relationship you have with yourself, if you are respectful of yourself, listening to yourself, caring for yourself, making sure you're not peeing your pants, taking care of those things. I mean, a guy was like, well, I wouldn't pee my pants. Yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't. So you know that sensation of having to go to the bathroom. But did you just shoot off your mouth? Because you can regulate that with compassion the same way you're compassionate to yourself. Because why would you want anybody looking at you and thinking, what a jerk?
Yeah.
You're betraying yourself now. Your relationship with yourself sucks. Go work on you and love you so that what pours out of you is that stuff from inside.
I want you to respond to this, actually. So
my 3 ex-wives have taken my work at it and my money. You wouldn't believe how many of the celebrities we interviewed that said that to me. Yeah, so it really is your relationship with yourself first. If my husband is saying or doing something that's hurting me or my kids or my friends, then I'm going to step back, keep myself hey, something's not working here. What's happening to you? What's going on inside of you? Because I know you're an amazing human and you would not want to show up like that. What's going on? Right?
That's it. Anytime you're in any kind of relationship, and whether it's an intimate one or business, like Ryan and I have been in business as business partners for about 5 years now. And the more you're with somebody, the more you start to reflect each other. You start to mirror, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're doing your own work, you're able to have those challenging conversations. Hey, I'm noticing this. And it still might have the emotional impact, but you can pause. I've seen many times where I brought stuff to Ryan and he's like, fuck you. And then he's like, you know what? You're right. We had Jen.
Time sharing your real feelings, Ryan.
Yeah. Jen Walter went through our program and we created a shirt called, FUTU, because she at first said FU because it hit. And then later came back and said, thank you, because it was exactly what she needed to hear. And there are moments like that where people say things to me and I get that defense up. And it's like, no, like you're seeing, they're like, what are you talking about? And then later I have time to sit with it, reflect on it. I'm like, shit, you're totally right. You know, and I see that, and I'm going to do better, you know, and it's not just to say I'll do better so you'll go away. It's like, no, I'm committed to transforming that in my life.
I'd like to add to that because I'm a really big believer in dignity.
Yeah.
You don't take another person's dignity from them. You don't demean. You don't tear down. You don't strip them. That's you showing you don't have any dignity for yourself. And that's how you're going to show up to another person. That's not okay. I don't allow that in my life. If someone wants to speak to me that way, I know they're coming from that place, whatever's happening for them. But it's like, hey, I'm sure you want to share something with me. That doesn't work for me. You have to know how many times I have to empower women, because women, they'll use their mouth, and then the man went, and then the women decide that the man's like a bully. And I'm like, no, you need to teach him what is okay with you and what is not okay with you. But you have to have inside of you that platform of dignity first. Trust me, I do this all the time. All the time I'm saying to women, yes, he needs correcting, but you're not correcting him. You're shifting you out. My favorite teacher, Jesus, it's not what goes into a man that defiles him. It's what comes out of him. And when something's coming out of me, I'm watching that. I'm watching the reaction. I'm watching the words. And I am requiring myself to be a woman of dignity and not to go ahead with a loose mouth and just shoot off and fire and hurt anybody I want to, because that is now a weapon. And I am no longer self-managing. I'm asking somebody else to tell me when I have to go to the bathroom. I'm asking someone else to manage me. And that's not adulting.
Yeah.
Period. It doesn't belong in the adult conversation.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I don't think I ever said fuck you.
You just did it. You just did it. I heard you. You just did it.
It's all for growth. You know, it's relationships, any kind, really push us to look, because we're around people, and who you really are is going to come out. It's going to come out.
So why try to be anything other than that?
Yeah. And so, but if you want to transform it or empower it, then it, you know, that reflection back could be a chance to do that. And, you know, as a person, you know, in the relationship that even has the thing that they want to bring up, like me, if I bring something up, it's like, well, okay, what's going on there in me? Where's my part? Right?
Yes. Whatever you do here, you do here. That's science, right? If I'm going to be corrective towards someone else, I need to also put myself on the same platform and say, how am I handling what I see in you right now?
Yeah.
Everybody, and then compassion. And I'm telling you right now, you guys, I know you don't have to consciously think, I have to go to the bathroom, because you've responded to those sensations for so long, they become developmental and highly functioning habits. And that's the same. We say goodbye to our youth. I love you. You were wonderful, but you didn't have all the pieces, and now it's time to grow up. Yeah. And let's get to work. This is your rite of passage. Your rite of passage is to be as whole and complete as you possibly can. So let's do it. We're not afraid. Men, do not be afraid. Come. There's light here. And women can be this beautiful, delightful, as long as they get their emotions taken care of and they're good on themselves, it can be this delightful pathway to come, follow me while I dance my way into growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a final thought here, like, I know we could go for hours, you know, and we don't always get to everything we want to talk to, but I feel like this conversation served, you know, really, really well. But as a final thought here, you know, what's a final intuition you have to share with the person that is listening to this episode? And there will be others that come after as well. either a question that you'd want to be asked that you could give an answer to, or just an intuition. What would you want to share right now?
That's a great question. I think we really need to remember that if we all understand that we're all actually trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to be loved. We all want to be loved. We all want clean air. We all want clean water. We have to stop blaming each other and finger pointing and faulting all the time. Can we not just say to that person who's annoying us, or, whether it's politics or, whatever it is, what is the driving force behind all people? Life is hard. We all want to be loved. We don't know how to get it, and some of us get it in really bad ways, and that's not okay. But what is the driving force? We all want to feel valued and loved. And that is our common ground with one another. No matter who's upset with each other in the middle of a fight, to stop a fight like that is to go, she or he is looking for the same thing I am. They just want to be valuable in this moment. Stopping everything and going, you know what, we're in the middle of this argument, but I think you're fighting because your heart wants to be loved, and so does mine. Can we just stop right now? We all want the same thing. We're all drinking the same water on the earth. We're all breathing the same air. We have so much in common. Why would we fight with each other like that? Let's not do that. Let's look for what we have in common. And if that basic fundamental common is that person just wants to be loved just like I do, stop. Just stop. And don't say you can't do it unless you're into peeing your pants. Because I'll tell you right now, I look around and see how many frontal crotches are wet around me. And it's like, hey, you guys, you need to learn not to pee your pants.
Yeah.
But that's really, we have, it's an old saying and people say it all the time, but we have so much more in common. Every single war, every single fight is all the same thing. I want, and I don't know how to get. So I get illegitimately, or I learn how to get it legitimately. And there's a lot of illegitimate ways, from horrible crime against humanity to wars, trying to get something the wrong way. But we need to know that we're wanting something. Let's meet that need in the healthiest way possible, starting with ourselves first.
That's a very strong message there. Thank you. Thank you. Ryan, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just I think that the great thing about all of this is that that I've taken away too. I've got a giant page of notes, so thank you. Lots to think about, lots to work on, new things that just came up to me, like personal revelations of my life and what I want to do moving forward. And you gave some tools. And I loved what you talked about getting your insides to catch up to your adult body, because there are those ways of being that are stuck in 8-year-old me, 12-year-old me, 20-year-old me, and that they've kind of stalled out there, and they show up in different circumstances. So that's why I say, like, like you might think you've been healed from something or whatever, and then something comes into your life and it comes to the surface, and you can start going, okay, step back, hold on a second, reframe it, talk to the person, start teaching that version of you, to how to grow up and
Brian, can I add something? Because I need to add something to what you were sharing, just because I hear this all the time. People think I should be healed by now. I should be whole by now. You don't go into a smorgasbord and eat the whole meal. You don't do it. You can't digest it. It's humanly impossible to not grow in layers. And part of growing in layers, we'll get into a relationship, it'll give us something new somewhere else. Maybe we encountered something. It's always evolving and always growing, and we have to accept that truth. Because can you imagine if we had to see everything that was wrong all at once and try to fix it? We'd be
No,
devastated.
it'd be terrible.
We don't do that. We grow in layers, just like an onion. We just grow in layers.
Yeah.
And we don't eat the whole smorgasbord at once. We can go back, digest, come back. That's normal growth, by the way. And so no one should ever be disappointed if they're 80 years old and go, I thought I learned that. You learned a portion of it, enough to help you, but now we'll do the deeper work. But it's always compassionate learning. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is it takes practice and it takes time. And as you go through experiences, you'll see other parts of you that you can give an upgrade to. And then as you elevate, you'll find new areas and new areas. It's spiral dynamics. It's leveling up.
Yes.
It's the onion. It's a beautiful thing. I think it was meant to be that way, so you
Yes.
can experience life and grow. And the other thing that we can do is turn around and share what we've learned with others. And so that's my goal is if you're listening to this show today, go to unlockingsecrets.com, get to know Candace, talk to her, be around her, follow her, because she's doing the work and teaching how you can do the work as well. And your life will be better. It'll improve. It'll grow. It's not to say that it's easy. Some parts might be easier than other parts, but there's going to be some challenges and some growth. It's going to be uncomfortable at the beginning because it feels clunky as you're upgrading. But you've got this. You can do it. I'm so excited for what it looks like for you and your future. And Candace, thank you so much for spending time with us today. You're amazing. You're beautiful, beautiful on the inside, beautiful on the outside. And you're teaching us how to communicate, not just with women, but with ourselves. And
Yes.
that's the most beautiful thing on the planet. So thank you so much.
So
And
humbled. Thank you guys so much.
speaking about recognizing that you have to pee, I have to pee so bad.
I'm so proud of you.
Wrapping up the show.
Just go, Nick.
I'm
It'll
so
be
proud
fine.
that you didn't pee your pants. Good job.
I love this. Like such a great analogy, incredible message. But it's just, everything that's been shared here is around that is you get to look at you in whatever reflections in front of you. And so that, don't run away from the mirror. Don't run away.
You're the only one you've got control over.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Great internal awareness. Yes. I have that. Hence, I'm not independent right now. Yeah.
Well, so grateful. I don't want to see you pee your pants on the air, Nick. So thank you so much to both of you. Thank you so much for the privilege, and I really appreciate it.
For those of you watching, thank you for being a part of this. Go make it a giant day. Take this video to somebody you know that could be served by this message. We love you and appreciate you. Be sure to join us next week on another great episode, and go to YouTube and follow our channel so you can get notified when we go live every single dang time, because we've got a great show for you. Go make it a giant day. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Love you too.
Bye.